Okay, dear friends, welcome to the present moment. And we are going to continue our Buddhist book club on fear. This is part 7. And fear is something that I think is not so far away for many of us. We feel anxiety or uncertainty. I know I certainly do. And a worry about this or that and kind of how things are going to come together or how they are not going to come together. So we can really take this as a wonderful moment and as a fresh moment to work with our fear, to face it, and to not be shy about this this willingness to step into the present moment. The fear is easy to pull us into the past, pull us into the future, and then when we consider to deal with the fear, we feel like we need to be fearful. But actually, we want to offer our mindfulness, our fearlessness to this moment, to this body, to this mind, to this breathing, and that is really our joy and our happiness to practice like this. Somehow, maybe it can often feel that the only time we can be involved in our life is in the past, or the only time we can be involved in our life is in the future. And that's kind of what we have to deal with, or we have to accept. But our meditation and our willingness to face fear and to be mindful and to be in the here and now, this is really the power of the present moment as it is, and allowing ourselves to have that gift and that freedom to be here and to make use of these conditions as fully as we can. So we don't need to rely on our complicated thinking or our fear or our worry, but we can really be here in the present together. So in that vein, I'd like to invite us all to start with a practice of meditation together. A few moments together in meditation, and I came across this gatha, or this lovely sharing from Master Su Yun, which is the teacher that we are reading from his texts in the morning sessions. And I just wanted to read this as an invitation for us to come home to our breathing and our body and practice a meditation together. So please find your meditation position, comfortable and stable. Find your breathing and your body. Allow yourself to come home. Allow yourself to be here now. Give yourself the full permission to do that. Okay, I'll read now from the words of Master Su Yun. Companions and friends in the Dharma, please do not worry. Set your minds at ease. Life and death from karma arise. Just as the silkworm is trapped in its own cocoon, if you do not lessen greed and confusion, then you are imprisoned by worry and joy. If you want to get out of this tribulation, work very hard at your own cultivation. Wonderfully mesh with non-production. with bright understanding penetrate to the mind ground, cutting off feelings of love and hate, escape from the wheel before it is too late. The triple non-outflow study must be attained, and the 4 applications of mindfulness strictly maintained. Vow to protect the precepts too, even though it is illusory, lightning and dew. Be certified as enlightened to true emptiness and the 10,000 dharmas oneness, the sorrow and joy of coming and going, like bubbles from water, are just causes flowing. Power of mindfulness. Every one of us has the capacity to be mindful, focused, understanding, and compassionate. That quality is inherent in everyone. You can call it Buddha nature. So when you say, I take refuge in the Buddha, you don't mean that you take refuge in a kind of God that exists outside of you. It means that you have confidence in your capacity to understand and to love. When the Buddha was very old, just before he died, he said, "My friends, my dear disciples, don't take refuge in anything outside of you." It means that you have confidence in your capacity to understand and to love. In every one of us, there is a very safe island we can go to. Every time you go home to that island with mindful breathing, you create a space of relaxation, concentration, and insight. If you dwell on that island in yourself with your mindful breathing, you are safe. That is a place where you can take refuge whenever you feel fearful, uncertain, or confused. In Plum Village, we have a short poem put to music. That verse can be used to practice taking refuge. Breathing in, breathing out. Buddha is my mindfulness, shining near and shining far. When you practice being aware of your breathing, you generate the energy of mindfulness. This is called mindfulness of breathing. That energy of mindfulness is the Buddha, because a Buddha is made of mindfulness. And every one of us is capable of generating the energy of the Buddha. If you come from a Christian background, you may compare it to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit can be described as the energy of God. With the practice of mindful walking and mindful breathing, you generate this powerful energy. You take refuge in that energy of mindfulness. It is a kind of light that shines forth and shows you clearly where you are and what is the next step you want to take. When you practice mindful breathing, the energy generated helps reduce the tension in your body and your feelings. There may be tension in your body and there may be strong emotions in you like fear and despair. The energy of mindfulness is embracing, calming, and releasing the tension and suffering. This energy calms you and eases your fear. Taking refuge in the island of self doesn't mean that you leave the world. It means that you go back to yourself and you become more solid. It's possible to walk in the city and still be in the island of yourself. Your response to what's going on around you, will be quite different if you are solid and not overwhelmed. There may be tension in your body. There may be strong emotions. When you practice mindful breathing, the energy of mindfulness helps release the tension in your body and your feelings and reduce the suffering. After 1 or 2 minutes of this concrete practice of taking refuge in the safe island within yourself, you feel calm. You no longer feel trapped in fear or despair, and those feelings are transformed. I practice this verse frequently. I've been using it for nearly 30 years already, and I continue to use it. So maybe we can try to practice this verse, each of us together. Breathing in, breathing out. Buddha is my mindfulness, shining near, shining far. Breathing in, breathing out. Buddha is my mindfulness, shining near and shining far. The Buddha gave his teaching on the island of self when he was dying. He knew that many of his disciples would feel lost after he died. So he was trying to tell his disciples that they should look for the teacher within rather than relying on the teacher outside. That the body of the teacher may disintegrate, but the teaching has already entered the student. If you go back to the island of yourself, you will see the teacher in you. There is no real difference between inside and outside. In fact, when we are inside, we can be more in touch with the outside. If you are not there inside, if you are not yourself, there is no real contact with the world outside. The way out is in. If you get deeply in touch with the inside, you get in touch with the outside too. And if you are able to get deeply in touch with the outside, you can get in touch with the inside at the same time. Going back to your island generates mindfulness and concentration. Whenever you are caught by an emotion like fear, anger, or despair, you go back to the island within yourself and practice this gatha to take refuge. I am sure you will feel much better after some minutes of this practice. When you find yourself in a dangerous or scary situation, when you are very sick, any time you don't know exactly what to do, this is what you should practice. If everyone practiced this, there would be enough calm, peace, and clarity for us to get ourselves out of every difficult situation. The practice of taking refuge can bring us joy and peace in our daily life. Breathing in, Buddha is my mindfulness. Breathing out, Buddha is my mindfulness. Shining near and shining far. cultivating the energy of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a kind of energy that can help bring our minds back to our bodies so that we can be established well in the here and now, so that we can get deeply in touch with life and its many wonders and truly live our lives. Mindfulness allows us to be aware of what is going on in the present moment, in our bodies, in our feelings, in our perceptions, in the world. We know that the morning is beautiful, the hills, the mist, the sunrise. We want to get in touch with that beauty and allow it into our hearts. We know this is very nourishing, but sometimes an emotion or feeling comes up that prevents us from enjoying what is happening in the here and now. While another person is able to let the mountains, the glorious sunrise, the beauty of nature penetrate fully into their body and mind, we are blocked by our worries, our fear, and our anger, and the beauty of the sunrise cannot really enter us. Our emotions prevent us from getting in touch with the wonders of life, the kingdom of God, the pure land of the Buddha. What should we do in these circumstances? We think we have to remove that feeling or emotion to be free again, so the beautiful sunrise can penetrate us. We consider our fear, anger, and worries as enemies. We think that without them we would be free, and that these feelings get in the way so we cannot receive the nourishment we need. It is in moments like this that we stick to our mindful breathing and gently recognize our afflictions, whether anger, frustration, or fear. Suppose we are feeling worry or anxiety. We practice breathing in, I know that anxiety is in me. Breathing out, I smile to my anxiety. Can try that together. Breathing in, I know that anxiety is in me. Breathing out, I smile to my anxiety. Maybe you have a habit of worrying, even if you know it's neither necessary nor useful. You still worry. You would like to ban worry and get rid of it because you know that when you worry, you can't get in touch with the wonders of life and you can't be happy. So you get angry at your worry. You don't want it. But worry is a part of you. And that is why when your worry comes up, you have to know how to handle it tenderly and peacefully. You can do it if you have the energy of mindfulness. You cultivate the energy of mindfulness with mindful breathing and mindful walking. And with that energy, you can recognize and tenderly embrace your worry, fear, and anger. When your baby suffers and cries, you don't want to punish him or her because your baby is you. Your fear and anger are like your baby. Don't imagine that you can just throw them out the window. Don't be violent toward your anger, your fear, and your worries. The practice is simply to recognize them. Continue to practice mindful breathing and mindful walking. Then, with the energy generated by your practice, you can recognize intense feelings, smile to them, and embrace them tenderly. This is the practice of non-violence with your worries, fear, and anger. If you get angry with your anger, it is multiplied 10 times. This is not wise. You already suffer a lot, and if you get angry with your anger, you will suffer more. A baby may not be pleasant when she cries and kicks, but her mother picks her up tenderly and holds her in her arms, and the mother's tenderness penetrates the baby. After a few minutes, the baby feels better and may stop crying. It is the energy of mindfulness that empowers you to recognize your pain and sorrow and embrace them tenderly. You feel some relief and your baby is quiet. Now you can enjoy the beautiful sunrise and allow yourself to be nourished by the wonders of life around you as well as inside you. Anyone like to share or ask a question, what we've read so far?
Test to anger building on itself, uh, especially when I'm driving. Um, I'll get angry at other cars that I feel like they're not making the best decisions, but that's from my perspective. Um, and then it's just very small anger, it's almost nothing. And then I'll catch it, and I've caught it so many times that I get frustrated with myself whenever I do that. And it's anger on anger. Uh, so that's something I'm working on. And it's nice to hear Thich Nhat Hanh's words on the subject. Thank you.
Whatever it is, you certainly don't want to make it worse. Okay, Nicole said, can we talk a little bit more about Buddha not being someone or something outside of yourself? Um, sure, Buddha is our mindfulness and our capacity to be mindful. It's just like your capacity to free yourself from the past and the future, okay, to realize freedom in the present moment. So it seems like there are certain conditions that come together, and then we are able to realize this or remember this. But actually, it's just causing conditions that are coming together. Your capacity to be mindful, right? The way out is in. Your capacity to be mindful is the Buddha, and that is inside of you. That's not outside of you. It's also not dependent upon the conditions. So this is very important that we don't put our Buddha outside of us. Then we will just act strangely, right? The real teacher is inside of us. It's just like you understand English, that is inside of you. It doesn't depend on anything outside. That we can say the Buddha is our mindfulness. And that is the true Buddha in you, the true Buddha inside of you, the Buddha nature. It's just that we are constantly turning away from that. So we forget it. We don't know it as deeply as we could. And maybe it's because we have that really deep habit energy to turn away from our mindfulness, to turn towards distractions, pleasures, or avoiding pains, that we think also that our mindfulness is outside of ourselves, or the Buddha is outside of ourselves, that enlightenment is outside of ourselves, because we just have that habit energy to look outside, but actually it's not. And that willingness to face the not, that willingness to face that not that's inside of ourselves with gentleness and with tenderness is how we begin to unravel it. But if you look at the knot and then say, you know, I want pizza or I want to watch a movie, well, the knot is not going to be worked on or unraveled. In the same way, if you start to work with the knot, if you start to work with that suffering, okay, and you're like, wow, this is really a knot, and then you turn away, looking outside to some teacher or some movie or something like that, well, then the knot is not going to resolve itself at all. You're not working on it. And in fact, we are maybe putting, uh, we're adding toxins to that knot, or we're adding, it's the knot is already difficult, and now you're covering your hands in oil. Okay, or the knot is already difficult, and now you're pulling it tight, trying to make it come apart, and now the knot is tighter. So we have to be diligent and to be careful about what we consume, what we do, so that we're not making the knot tighter, but also so that we're not ignoring the knot or just turning away from it. The knot is in this entanglement of fear, desire, attachment, confusion, worry. How do you resolve it? Well, you face it. And your power, your energy of mindfulness gives you the capacity to face it. That's the Buddha. And certainly not outside of yourself. Just like there are certain conditions that allow us to breathe normally and our bodies to function normally, there are also certain conditions that are more conducive to us, supportive to us realizing that Buddha inside of ourselves, realizing our mindfulness coming home. But fundamentally, coming home in and of itself is free of conditions. Just like this body is not free of conditions, it's just a condition, it's a effect of many causes that's coming together right now. But our true nature is not dependent on any conditions, particular place, particular time, particular people, particular smells. You could meditate. Your room could be full, a complete mess, really, a depressed, anxious mess your room could be. I know my room has gotten like that at times, especially when I was younger, high school. My gosh, unbelievable. even in those conditions, the Buddha is there. Your mindfulness can be there. It actually doesn't need to be an obstruction. And if you can stop and practice that mindfulness, realize the Buddha inside of you, well, then you're going to you're going to feed that energy of mindfulness. Okay, and then you're going to be naturally inclined to make the skillful decision moving forward. So you probably will clean the room. So we have to hold the two, well, maybe the three sides of it. There's the relative, which is our real true person and a real true story that we have to take care of. Okay, and because we have to be practical about the situation that we're in, be reasonable, be open to dealing with it in a reasonable way. And then we have our, let's say, our samadhi, or our the deepening and the really enjoyable sense of our mindfulness and our meditation that says, oh yeah, that's really the nourishing, and that's the nice meditation, and that's the reason why I'm here, and that's I really enjoy that, etc. That absorption into our meditative state. But we also have the insight. Okay, so we have the understanding that even when things are not pleasant, and even when the relative falls apart, or when this real true person and a real true story is everything's going wrong, there's still the insight that is there. There's the freedom that is there. The Buddha is there. So we can take refuge in our insight. We can take refuge in our seeing into the true nature. We can taste the honey even in the midst of this great calamity and these great difficulties that we may be going through, that do come up when you are attached to the body and when you're attached to the mind. I was listening to Ajahn Brahm yesterday, and he was telling the story about this man who was walking in the forest, this person who was walking in the forest, and a great lion started to chase him, or her, them. This person was non-binary, so them, and this lion started to chase them, and they were running, very scary. It's a real lion, it's a real situation, and they see a well. They see this big black hole, so they say, "Okay, I got to jump in there." Well, jumps in the hole, and there's no water in it. Grabs onto the side this rope before going to the bottom and breaking, and horrible situation. So the lion's on top looking down. It's very hungry. It's not going away. And down at the bottom is this great snake. Okay, this great venomous snake that's very scary and is not too far away. And as as they are holding on to the side of this well and this root, two little mice come along, and they start to nibble on that uh, on that vine. So what do you do? What does that person do? Well, they noticed a sound of buzzing, and they looked over just above them over here, and there was a beehive, a honey hive, and there were little drops of honey that were kind of slowly coming out of this beehive. So, what do you do in that situation? How do you deal with it? You stick your tongue out and taste the honey. Enjoy. So, in the midst of these calamities, if we can have our mindfulness, if we can have that just little bit of insight, then we can find something to enjoy. We can find something to nourish us. Okay? Our body dissolving is certainly a lion level situation. Okay? Very large, scary snake situation, falling down a big, dark well situation. Okay? So a lot to be afraid of. We don't really need to rely on these complicated, shallow, vague notions of these worries that we have in our life when the situation is much more worrisome than that. The things that we're getting stuck on intellectually are not really the major suffering. It's this body is going to dissolve, right? This body is going to get sick and go through old age. I mean, that's serious situation. That's the reality we're dealing with. And it doesn't matter how bad it gets, it's going to be temporary. So we can use our mindfulness to see through this trap and enjoy and nourish ourselves on the honey that is available to us every moment. You can take a breath, you can see, you can hear the sound of the bell. We can continue. Cassiana said, feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Conscious breathing is my anchor. Okay, and Ryan said, what are some good mantras or reminders to let us sit with the situation at hand to stay mindful? Someone here have a mantra they use? Can share with Ryan?
What about the poem that Thich Nhat Hanh had shared just a moment ago?
Breathing in, breathing out. Buddha is my mindfulness, shining near and shining far. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. You can say that. You can use your words and your voice, your mind, your heart mind in that way. Breathing in, I am aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I smile to my whole body. Breathing in, aware. Breathing out, I smile. So there are many mantras, many phrases we can make use of to establish ourselves in that meditative way. It's just a matter of um, energizing and fueling our mindfulness so that we can put that into practice when we feel the difficulty, when we feel the confusion, when we feel the negative states of mind starting to get involved, right? We offer our fearlessness, we offer our tenderness, we offer our kindness to that suffering that we are aware of without any limits. Okay. Robin on YouTube says, I keep it simple. I am safe. I am loved. I am valued. Wonderful. And to be aware of our suffering, to be aware of that energy inside of us that is worry or fear or feeling to be low, feeling to be um, not going in the direction that we want to go, or things not being the way we want them to be. We can speak to ourselves in that way. I am safe. I am loved. I am valued. Period.
Hello, everybody. One of the things I did when I had spine surgery almost 10 years ago, and it was extensive. I had to learn how to walk, and they weren't sure that was going to happen. But one of the things I did, and something I continue to do for myself, is really to focus in on now. So I'd made that decision that who knows if I'm going to walk again. It didn't really matter because I'm just going to focus on now. And right now, even though I'm not walking, I'm still alive. So that's good. And though that sounds like really sort of plain and maybe a little defeatist, I didn't think it was. I felt like staying present and accepting where I was at that time um, was fine. And I really didn't fear whether I was ever going to walk again or not, because you don't even know if you're going to be alive 5 minutes from now anyway. So, and it helped me. And I do walk now, but at the time, that's what I did. So, thank you.
Yeah, somehow we need to learn how to be this constant, wonderful, loving, understanding, wise presence for ourselves. But not in the normal way that we think about it, because it is in the nature of this body and mind to get sick. It is in the nature of this body to die. So it can't be conditional, but it has to be energized. It has to be strong. It has to be empowered. Right? This way of offering compassion, offering kindness, offering gentleness and tenderness and mindfulness, to kind of come home and recognize the present moment, the here and now, and offer that to these sufferings and these states, these negative states of mind that we are getting involved with. And in an unconditional way. Because if it's conditional, we're not going to be able to practice it very much. It's going to be so limited, right? We have to feel this way in this place at this time with these people, etc. And if you do this, no. If you do that, no. If this happens, no. If this person shows up, no. So how do we say yes to everything? Not in terms of our desire or our fear, but in terms of our mindfulness and our compassion and our tenderness. Starting with ourselves, right? We have to offer it to ourselves first. And there's so many different ways that we can do that. It's always opening, evolving, creative. It's not just one particular way that we can do it or that we have to do it. And in giving ourselves this full permission, this unrestricted permission to love ourselves and to take care of ourselves and be tender with ourselves, that's where this practice of caring for and taking care of our fear and our anxiety and our worry, these sufferings becomes possible when they arise, not to try and avoid them or hide from them, but to face them and be with them in the capacity that we can. If we digest that, we live a more skillful life overall. Okay. We have more access to these deeper states of peace, of balance, of joy, sense of freedom. And our insight or our deeper understanding about the nature of this situation becomes more empowered, more accessible. Right? Not only the peace of mindfulness, the enjoyment of mindfulness, but the insight, the wisdom of mindfulness, present moment awareness, reality as it is, being accessible to us. We can empathize with that. We're not just stuck in our normal way of seeing things. We're not just stuck on fixating on the wave. What's this wave going to do? What am I going to do? But we find our nature is the water, and we can feel safe. That freedom of our true nature, and that's coming home. Taking mindfulness with us. Like many of us, you may be in the habit of carrying your cell phone around with you everywhere you go. You think you cannot live without your cell phone. You are fearful when you forget and leave your phone at home. You worry when your battery starts to run low. When we practice mindfulness, we can take our practice with us wherever we go, just like you take your phone with you. But mindfulness doesn't take up any space or make your bags any heavier, and your batteries never run down. Whenever you go somewhere, your practice goes with you. Our daily lives need to have a spiritual dimension to help us develop our capacity for taking good care of our pain and fear, as well as our happiness. If we practice mindfulness, we always have a place to be when we are afraid. If we nourish and cultivate our mindfulness practice, it will become vigorous and robust. Everywhere we go, we will have our practice. So we will have confidence, more confidence than our cell phones can bring us. We can stand firm through any difficulty. Everyone has the seed of mindfulness inside. Everyone is capable of breathing in mindfully, even very young people. Everyone can drink their tea mindfully. Everyone can take a step in mindfulness. When you are inhabited by the energy of mindfulness, you speak, eat, and walk in mindfulness. The energy of mindfulness is alive in you. Mindfulness carries within it the energy of concentration, so the seed of concentration is also in you. There are practices of concentration that can liberate us from fear, anger, and despair. Generating the energies of mindfulness and concentration in your daily life, you learn to transform your fear and anger and let go of suffering. And then, along with mindfulness and concentration, comes insight. Insight is wisdom, understanding. The seed of wisdom, of perfect understanding, is in each of us. Awareness is mindfulness, concentration, and insight. When I see you walking in mindfulness, with solidity, with happiness, I see the holiness in you. We might even call you your holiness. It's true. Every one of us has our holiness because we have the Buddha inside us. When the Buddha is alive inside of us, we do not suffer, and happiness is possible. Okay, let's listen to a sound of the bell, and then we will finish up with just a few words of metta and chant sadhu together to finish. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful. May we all be free. May we find our mindfulness and come home to it whenever difficulty faces us. May we be free from suffering and remember the Buddha inside of us again and again and again. Sadhu. 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 Okay, my dear friends, thank you for all being here with me. Thank you for your sharing today, and maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Okay? Take care, bye-bye.